Hello. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
I love the way YouTube is like 5 seconds behind us because I'll get a blast of sound when it goes live.
I always have to make sure I have my sound off on YouTube because I have it on a different tab.
Yeah, I have mine here. There we go. There we go. There we go. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. You guys are
Ooh,
here.
I feel a sneeze coming on.
Oh no! Block
Sorry.
it. Welcome to Monday. It's time to sneeze. I got the cough drop in. Got the
We
sneeze.
got Lucy behind and Roro on the table.
We are ready. Okay. If my cat neighbor comes in, because I negotiated, I will feed him treats if he does not hunt my birds, and he holds me to it. So the treats are at the back door, and if he comes in, I'll be leaving the screen for a second.
Oh, Johnny, you're up early.
Johnny's up. Whoa!
He's catching a plane later today.
Oh, that's why you're up. Yeah, that's great. Welcome, welcome. Hi, Maura. Oh my God. So we have to be like awake and functioning. I've only drank a third of this.
So we've already decided our January topic will be live January 2nd on Jody's channel in 2023. Woo!
Woo, woo, woo.
We'll be talking about remaining curious. But this morning we're talking about boundaries.
Boundaries.
It's that time of year, we all get around family and friends and stuff during the holidays, and
Mm-hmm.
with political things going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
It's
watched Bo of the Fifth Column. He's got a great YouTube channel, really helping people think through how to negotiate and navigate being with family and the boundaries around, the politic thing, and just not talk about it or how to talk about it.
Jody, can you turn your volume up just a little bit, or just
Uh, oh, wait,
you're a
it's going
little
down.
bit hard to hear?
Oh, shit, that's the wrong one. Okay, how's that?
It's good.
Okay, can I lean back here on
Or
my hot rock pad and you can still hear me?
I can hear you a little better. Yeah,
Okay, okay.
yeah. It's hard, being around family, whether it's politics or just old family arguments being rehashed over and over. We thought this would be a good month to talk about boundaries.
Yes, 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 yes.
Good
So,
morning, everybody. Thank you for
good
joining
morning.
us.
So, how are you all doing? Good morning. Good
Did
morning.
everybody make it through Thanksgiving without any family arguments?
I was with my heart family. We didn't argue.
When I say family, I mean, friends that you think of as family, or your biological family, even, or your adopted family. I create my own family.
Yes, I do that too. Yeah, I had for Thanksgiving. I mean, it was really funny because all of my strays, the ones that don't have any family to go to around here, we were like, yeah, we're gonna all just do hermit. I'm gonna hermit. I was gonna unpack. I ended up working every day of that week except for Thanksgiving. And 2 days before, we started texting each other late at night, like, should we get together? So, we planned Chinese food. And one of those friends has a dog that has been going through a process of transitioning, and we've all been part of the support team, the death walking team. And he felt good enough to come that day, and it was like five goddesses and one male dog who was completely present as we were to the sacredness of animals in our lives. It was beautiful, and he crossed a week later, and it was one of the most magnificent Thanksgivings I've had, just to be able to do that. And the only picture I got of him was we all shared coconut cream pie that a client had given me, and the dog couldn't eat because of the cancer, and he was able to eat the pie, and he's got like coconut cream all over his mouth.
Oh,
Just like it's a great remembrance, you know. So it was very sacred. It was very sacred. It was a neat experience. We were talking about having animals, and I'm looking around my house at all the expensive breakable things going, I don't think so. They're going to have to be outside. If Trillium's around here this early in the morning, I need the llama or the alpaca, the thing that can't come in. So boundaries.
got Jen and Mary with me. Jen, I just made you a moderator, I think.
Mary Harrow's on. Sharon's a moderator. Friendsgiving. Oh, I like that. Yes, that's exactly what it was. That's exactly what it was.
I sometimes make people moderators too, so I can keep up with their comments more.
That's funny. So I remember back in the day when I first sobered up and started therapy, that was 36 years ago, and was presented with the word boundaries. It was an extremely foreign concept back then. I came from a family that practiced enmeshment and what would be called energetic vampiring, with some of the members. And I remember my first therapist, talking about setting boundaries. I didn't know what it meant. And part of the way I was taught to figure that out was asking myself, what did I need and what did I want? And those were two questions I was not allowed to ask as a kid. My needs were irrelevant in my family. And I remember walking around with a little tiny gilded metallic frame that was purple and red with those sentences written in the picture. What do I need? What do I want? And I would just look at it and go, I don't know. So setting a topic like this, I just sort of go through my relationship with the topic, and
giving yourself the freedom to think about what you need or want.
I know, but it's something that in some of our dysfunctional families we're not taught that, and I literally had to learn that I could have needs and wants. I also had to learn to not be the power source for anybody and everybody that wanted some, because that's what my mother taught me to do. And I also had to learn to honor boundaries that others had, and without, oh my God, they don't like me, they're setting the boundary kind of thing. So it's a really fascinating topic, and it's something that's been in my life for so long that I sometimes take it for granted, not often, but sometimes it's just like, okay, it's normal. So it's thank you for this topic. Is it's like, ooh, that's fun to go through all those years of change.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of YouTube channels now that with therapists and stuff talking about narcissists and things, but you may need boundaries, just for simple things like if you're a giver and people take advantage of it and are constantly asking you to do things for them, but they never really reciprocate. If it all's one-sided and you're just drained because you're giving and giving and giving, learning to say no. That was a really hard lesson for me, learning to say no, because I like to give, and it was hard for me to receive, and learn to set some boundaries and say no. It's like, for me, boundaries too is about what makes you uncomfortable. Thinking about what makes you uncomfortable, what triggers you, or what may be triggering a trauma or something, and understanding you get to decide what makes you uncomfortable. You get to decide, when to say no and mean it. No means no. So it's that understanding what you need and what you want and being able to enforce it. One thing though that always seems to come up whenever I set a boundary with somebody, the counterattacks. Oh, you're too sensitive. Oh, you're too judgmental. It's like, they'll come back with these, you're too this, you're too that. It's like, no, this is my boundaries, honor it.
Yeah. No, yeah, again, I don't think most of us are taught healthy boundary setting and what it looks like as children. And, for those, and I'm looking at the comment streams, yeah, definitely boundaries are a big part of free will. Amen to that. The caring for the giver and the healer. I mean, all of this, this is a topic that is so relevant in all part of life and work and jobs. And when I look at people that I know that I'm coaching with, and the ability to say no to a company because there's a lot of expectation that people do not have boundaries. We're hiring you for this and we're going to take that from you. I just like that. Learn the word no.
Or the family member that or friend that asks you for money all the time or whatever, and then you do it and you do it again and you do it again, and then it's hard to say no because you created a pattern, you created a habit, and it created this atmosphere of this is acceptable to me. So when you try to change it and flip it a little bit, the resistance from the other person is like, oh, you
yeah.
don't love me anymore, or
Oh,
you
yeah.
don't this, or you don't that, the counterattacks.
Yeah. Is it NH? Is that New Hampshire Mountain Dancer? It blows people's minds that I am setting boundaries now. When I first started setting boundaries in my first year of therapy, my mother called me up one day. You're a selfish bitch because you're saying no to me. I mean, it was like, you're right. But that was
the counterattack.
That was the counterattack, and that was her belief, because at that time she had had 30 years of being able to get me to do whatever she wanted because that was how I was raised. And it's amazing when you start saying no. Now it's fun, but
you start saying no and you quit enabling the pattern, whatever the pattern is you're trying to break. It's like, I equate it to, enabling a narcissist or enabling an alcoholic or a drug addict or whatever. You set a firm boundary. And it's learning to, honor the fact that you deserve to be treated well, that you're worthy of being treated well, that you deserve your space, your sacred space. You deserve friends that treat you well and family that treats you well. And you deserve to have people come from a place of love, not a place of, as Jen said, manipulation. That's a great word. The manipulation that people try to do. The hardest thing, because they'll escalate, they'll take it to an argument level quick or nasty words or whatever. The hardest thing is remaining calm as they escalate it. Like when your mom said, oh, you're being mean to me, you're being cruel or whatever. It's like they try to escalate it, and trying to find that space to stay calm and centered and say, no, I deserve to be treated well. Yes. And there's no exceptions to that. So,
well, most of us are, the biggest shadow and shadow work with anybody I've ever worked with, including myself, is the worthiness shadow. That is an issue for most humans of either, there's a shadow in the undercurrent of childhood of I'm not worthy, and it can show up as I'm not good enough, or it can show up as pure narcissism. Go to either extreme. It's all based in the same department. And, either side of that continuum can not know how to set boundaries and also violate boundaries.
Yeah. And the patterns continue as long as you enable them to. When you start setting the boundary, attracting the narcissists, or you quit attracting the people that take and take and take and disappear when you need something. But trying to remain calm when they start escalating, it's like, you can't pour gasoline on a fire, without there being a big boof. So trying to stay calm when they escalate, it's, for me, it's like, a deep breath, and like you'll hear me do it. Like they'll
Mhm.
know I'm taking a deep breath because you're triggering, me to want to go up there
Right,
with you.
right.
People have noticed, like when I'm like before I speak, that's Aries. Like it's a little bit passive aggressive probably because you can hear me when I'm like, I got to take 5 seconds before I speak because something I don't want to say is going to come out of my mouth if I don't take 5 seconds.
Well, and I've had the opportunity in my process to learn the healthy use of anger. Um, and I've had clients who it's like an inner child constantly testing to see how far he or she can push. That happens a lot in my counseling sessions, and it's normal. It's trying to judge the boundaries and the safety. And I had one person who had a pattern of losing jobs and relationships because of her anger issues. And and I knew the time would come that we would get to test this together. And it was one day in a session, and I honestly do not remember what her inner child was saying to me. I just don't remember, but something was said that was completely inappropriate, and I just said, no, don't do that. And the inner child escalated, and I know how to use the anger to set a boundary and then be completely done with anger. It's gone the minute. So this happened 3 times. And my last boundary setting was, if you're not willing to stop this, we are going to end the session now. And, you know, with the force of the Scorpio sword, and she ended it. We can not the session, she ended what she was doing. We finished the session, and she's walking out the door going, and this was her and her kid's interpretation, that's the first time I've had a fight with anybody and you still love me. It's powerful, because in doing inner child work, I'm always seeing the nuances of who's speaking, what energy is speaking through a human. And it's just part of the process, it's part of the process.
It's hard to, like, when something starts to escalate and you feel yourself getting triggered, like you can, become more aware of, like, okay, I'm getting triggered.
Mhm.
um a lot of us that have those triggers had horrible role models in our childhood, so
Yeah. Mhm.
you've had to learn the skills to stay calm or to take, it's like food. You drop food on the floor, there's a 3-second rule. You can still pick it up and eat it if it's only been there 3 seconds. It's the same thing. It's like, if I have to take 3 seconds for myself to breathe so I don't come out with something I don't, that's much
Right.
harsher than I want to say, I have to take 3 seconds for myself. But it takes practice. It's setting boundaries is not easy. Breaking a pattern
It's
is
not
not
easy.
easy. There are people that have lived with a spouse for 40 years trying to set boundaries, and it's not easy with people that you love, that you've been with a long time, but it's doable.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
if they're a narcissist, they'll go find somebody else they can trigger when they can't trigger you anymore. But
Right.
they have separation anxiety, so they always come back. Right, right, right. She's
Yeah,
like,
mom's
yeah,
right.
set
I agree with that.
boundaries.
I agree with that.
um,
Well, and part of what I see in boundaries, because I mean, I was married to a narcissist, so I completely get this. I left, he found somebody else. Um, and I look at the inner children. I've been doing inner child work for so long, and the pushing of the boundaries that I observe is often, I mean, it can piss us all off as practitioners. I get that. And it's an inner child attempting to find some safety in a dysfunctional way. And, to be able to teach somebody a boundary around that, to model what it looks like to be appropriate. Because a lot of people, especially in today's world, are just overwhelmed in PTSD. Um, it can lead to victim consciousness. And I remember when I was first going through my process, I was in victim consciousness. I mean, that's part of what I had to learn to grow through. And there wasn't enough to fill the hole at that time because I didn't know I could trust myself yet. And learning boundaries, when people would say, no, this is a boundary, of course, the inner kids were like, oh my God, they don't like me. That's the
Yeah.
first thing that would come up. And, and yet what I
Go,
learned,
go into victimhood, like, oh, poor
well,
me.
that's part of the program. We either are raised blaming and in victim, or we are raised being empowered. And I don't know very many people in my generation raised to be empowered. I mean, it
Yeah,
just wasn't around back then. And,
pointing the finger at somebody else.
and that's just, I mean, I don't judge. That is part of the human third dimensional experience. The game is to get out of it.
I
And
do agree. Like you have to tap into that inner child.
yeah,
Like where when did my feelings of unworthiness start and everything? But you also have to let the adult in you heal the child in you. Let the adult in you be the adult you didn't have in your childhood.
well, and that's what inner child work is about. It's not about going and finding somebody to be mommy or daddy out there in the real world, which is what most people try to do. It's about growing up the adult archetype and getting the inner kids. I mean, it's an amazing process to witness
Mhm.
in clients because most of us let the wounded parts of us run the show without even knowing that's what we're doing. And I see that in politics all the time, by the way. Um, when the adult archetype, and when I do all this in a medicine wheel in a shamanic journey because I set up a whole infrastructure of, okay, your kids are in the South, that's emotions in the wheel I use. Have a badass, powerful guide there so that when you're busy adulting, doing other things, they're taken care of. And over in the North, where the adult archetype is, that's where we do our adult business. And it's really, I have a client, it's really funny. The kids had a cave in the South, and my inner kids are looking at this in a journey going, they need twinkle lights. That's what my kids put twinkle lights everywhere, as you can see in my house. And, and this person was busy adulting, and I'm going, my kids have an offering that maybe they would like some twinkle lights. So, the next time we did a session, the whole cave is decked out in twinkle lights. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I need. Make it pretty, make it safe. So, it's okay as inner kids, as adults with inner kids, to have them ask for something. Part of adulting is to be able to set boundaries, you know?
I had I had sort of an opposite thing happen with my sister as we got older. Same childhood trauma,
Yeah.
with abuse. But my sister went into a mothering mode, to be the mother she didn't have. And she was a wonderful mother with her sons and everything, but she kept trying to mother me as an
Right.
adult, and even as a teenager, she, because she was 4 years older,
Mhm.
she would try to take on this mother role with me. And it's like, you're not my mother,
Mhm.
And I had to, even in my 50s, I had to remind her, you are not responsible for me. I make up my own decisions. Don't talk to me like I'm a child. I had to set a boundary with that. Don't talk to me like I'm young, inexperienced, or whatever.
Mhm.
I'm a strong, independent woman, and I make up my own mind.
Mhm.
She
Mhm.
made a comment to me about, well, I don't want to influence you. I said, you don't influence me. I make up my own mind.
That's the free will we
But that
have.
was that. She wanted to think, that she had that kind of power or control over me to influence me,
Mhm.
was where it was coming from, because she wanted to be able to influence people in in a way, in a mothering way that our mother didn't do for us. I
Yeah.
was like, no.
Well, and that's, I mean, there's a lot of that goes on in adulthood of people
Mhm.
going into weird control power modes that, and again, a lot of that shows up in corporations too. I mean, I really, I think so much of what we're doing in life is acting out our childhood issues in adulthood. And
It gets easier with practice, though.
oh,
Setting
does
boundaries
it
gets so much easier.
ever?
And
Yes,
saying no gets easier.
yes,
You know,
yeah.
not letting a narcissist plug into you and trigger you and stuff, that you quit attracting them so much. It's like, yeah, they're still going to come along every now and then, but you also have to recognize, if they don't honor your boundaries, you have to know when you're ready to walk away, because there are times you will have to walk away and say, you're not honoring my boundaries and I deserve to be treated well. So this isn't
Mhm.
working for me. So therefore, I'm taking myself out of the line of fire
Mhm.
here. And
Mhm.
I wish you well, go on and have a happy life, but I'm not going to be a part of it.
Well, and part of, I just put a question in in this chat for everybody. Um, Walking away means coming to terms with the fear of being alone. You know, that's that when I was in treatment, um, they talked about loneliness as one of the core emotions that we had to deal with. And I can't count the number of times I got into relationships because I was afraid to be alone, and how many people I know have gone through that too. And when I went to the mountain, I mean, when my guides sent me out of Texas the first time with go to the mountain. I'm in Texas, come on. And I went to Idlewild, California, which is a mountain above Palm Springs, because I had family there. And I joined a Zen order because they wanted me to learn detachment from outcome and being alone. And that was probably one of the hardest lessons I put myself into intentionally. And what happened is I got to the point of really knowing that my inner core essence is hermit. I mean, that's, I like being alone and I'm never lonely. I mean, people would just, I mean, like I'd go hiking and miles of hiking trails on that mountain. I go hiking by myself with my dog, or my dog and my next door neighbor's dog, and they were just going, "How can you hike alone all the time?" And I'm like, "Who's alone? I've got so many damn guides. They never shut up. The trees talk to me. The mountain
You're
talks.
never alone, really.
I'm not alone. They're always there."
A lot of people try to fill a hole, like they're afraid to be alone and look to themselves for their own happiness. I'm very comfortable alone. Like I will,
Hmm.
I will almost, set up the walls too much, to have my downtime, my alone time, or whatever. I have to push myself now to get out more because I don't get out as much, especially during the pandemic. Um,
Yes.
but
Yes.
I know Johnny's kind of the same way, but he's breaking out more and getting out more, and you can get very comfortable alone and not having to meet others' needs. There's times when I'm working and everything, I'm meeting other people's needs. So there
Hmm.
are times where I need to take care of me. I need my bubble bath. I need my me time.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
And that's a boundary. It's like, setting a boundary can be as simple as turning your phone off for an hour. That's a boundary. It's like,
That's
no
boundary.
calls, nobody in my space. This is
Yeah.
my time. I'm
Well,
worthy of it. I
and I
deserve
mean,
this.
where as healing practitioners, we have to learn those kinds of boundaries because there are a lot of people in crisis right now. And I mean, my phone is muted almost 24/7 because I'm doing voice analysis on it. I'm doing sessions all the time, and I can't handle having bells and whistles going off around me. They're
Yeah.
too loud. So it's muted. And when I was living in Texas, and people, whatever was going on in Texas at the time, I had people who would have shamanic attacks, of course, in the middle of the freaking night, and text me at 2 in the morning. People I didn't know, they come in off my business page. I need help now. And by the time, and I would just look at it when I woke up and go, okay, that's nice, and that actually is what made me go get a booking service so that the next morning or the next day I could send them the link and say, if you still need help, here's the session cost.
Yeah.
Because they really expected me to call them in the middle of the night and do whatever we needed to do. And I'm like, Oh, hell no. That's a boundary violation. This one needs sleep. And so it's been funny finding my own boundaries here.
when you have to, you have to get to the root fear. We talk about that all the time, I know, but you have to
Yeah.
get at the root fear. Like, why am I afraid to say no? Or why am I afraid
Yeah.
to set a boundary and enforce it? Like, draw the line and say, nope, you're crossing a line here. I deserve better than that. I deserve to be treated better than that. Yeah,
Right.
if you're afraid to set that boundary, why?
Mhm.
What's the fear? Are you afraid you won't have any friends or any loved ones around you?
Yeah.
um
Well, yeah, I was asking that in the chat. I mean, for me in the beginning, setting a boundary, uh, meant in the family with my mother, it meant violence. And with my father, it meant perceived abandonment because he was military. He was getting sent overseas for a year. I mean, it wasn't personal, it was the job he had. And with my mother, it was personal. I mean, it was just how she was with a female in the family. She didn't do this to the boys. Um, so I learned at a very young age that not having boundaries meant I could survive the childhood. And unfortunately, that continues into attracting the narcissist like her. And, that's where I had to get comfortable with being alone, because if setting a boundary meant somebody walked out on me in a relationship, so be it. I had to get there.
Triggered abandonment feelings. Johnny just said, great. I was confusing boundaries with fear and comfort zones. It all gets all meshed in together in our little
That's
heads.
it. I know. God. Well, and so I have a question, because this is, I started this path in my process long before cell phones and computers were in public. I mean, after the military had them, but we didn't. I mean, 15 years before that stuff happened. How do you guys experience social media and live streams with boundaries and comfort zones? I mean, it's, as as an old fart, it's very interesting navigating this boundary thing with the different social apps. How do you guys do that? I want to know how you all deal with that.
It's interesting. I have a sister-in-law who, very different political opinions from me. And she would come onto my page and my comments and post things below it, like trying to start an argument on Facebook. And my response to her was, you can unfriend me at any time. And so you don't have to read my comments. um
Yeah,
I would just go in and respond very calmly, and
yeah, yeah,
she would come like blaring at me with insults and stuff, and talking about how stupid or ignorant I was and stuff. That's, if you don't think like me, you must be ignorant.
there's something wrong. When I got on Facebook, which was 2007 or 8, and me being the kind of Scorpio I am, it's like, oh, good, I can argue on this page. And my Hathors that day, Cornell and I were both getting on Facebook at the same time. Then we're going to go do a cave concert down in Texas. And my Hathors sat me down before we left for the cave and said, you will only use social media as a prayer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, ooh, that's no fun. I'm so grateful that's the boundary. They set a boundary with me. And
Well,
you
you learn, like, you can't change how someone else reacts. You can
can't
only
do
change how
anything.
you react. So,
Exactly. And
not
what I,
letting them get triggered. Jen just said it great. Observe, don't absorb.
yeah, exactly.
You
Exactly.
just kind of sit back, and I find it really funny. It's like how many people have unfriended me on Facebook.
Well, what I did in the beginning, because it wasn't as cantankerous a society as it is now, and I basically use my photography, my music, and beauty as the prayer. That's what I use. I do this on every app I'm on, including Twitter, and and that's the practice. That is a spiritual practice for me, is to offer that up in social media. And I remember one day, because and I always watch social. I mean, I will eliminate a comment and set a boundary if somebody acts out. And, and people in the beginning would try to do politics. And if they were good friends of mine, I would delete the comment, message them and say, my page is for prayer only. This is not my definition of prayer. Stop doing it. Do it on your page. If you want to message me and have a conversation, I'm in. I'll argue.
Trying to force their views on everybody. It's,
And I had a day, I was working all day long. I couldn't check the Facebook app. And when I got back to it, somebody had snarked at another comment on a stream under a prayer. And somebody that I knew but not well in a different city had gotten on under that comment, and she's like, you don't do that here. This is a page for prayer. And I'm looking at that going, how did she know that? It was amazing because in those days, everybody knew that, there's a boundary.
A lot of us stay so in tune because our smartphones and everything to social media and stuff, and which can trigger us. We're so plugged in. It's like I don't know. A lot of people never turn their phone off or put it in silent mode. I throw mine into airplane mode all the time. Like if I'm at my guitar lesson, I put it in silent mode. If I'm doing personal readings, I do that, but sometimes I do it for me because I need that silent space for me.
Yeah. Somebody, okay, I'm going to go back to Karen.
I look at it this way because people are like, oh, what if there's an emergency? Well, there's still going to be an emergency in an hour. If I take an hour for myself and silence my phone.
Well, as a healing practitioner,
I can't change what's happening, if somebody's having an emergency.
As a healing practitioner, what clients perceive of as emergencies are boundary violations for me, usually. And who taught me this was a client who is a therapist. And I remember the day, because this was a decade or so ago, that on her phone message, she had, if you are in an emergency, you call 911. And we had a conversation about that. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? And she said, people don't honor the boundaries. I'm not available 24/7 by phone, by text, or by email. And it was like, okay, I don't have that on my, I don't say that, but I act that, it's like, if it's that big of an emergency, you need to call somebody else, and that's a boundary issue. I'm not available at all times. Okay, your problem's not my emergency. Thank you, Joyce. That is exactly, that's true. And if I'm working with somebody, if somebody doesn't know how to be accountable for what their reality is, they're going to constantly come out to readers and healers to help solve the problems. And I'm like, go do it yourself. Your homework assignment is to go do it yourself. And then we'll talk about what happened. And that's a teaching.
I realize, people, I was just thinking about, people that have teenagers that are going on dates or driving the car at night for the first time and stuff. Yeah, you're not going to silence your phone during that time. I get it, that you need to be there in case something happens, but you can find time where you can have those quiet moments and unplug.
Yeah, it's easier to block through tech than face to face. Oh my God, Spiral Eye, that is so true. That's so true. You guys are great. This is fun. Okay, where's this? Your problem is not my emergency. That would make a great title.
That would be great on a t-shirt, Joyce.
I love it. Get online with that t-shirt on, Get on sessions. Your problem is not my emergency. Well, and it's just, those of us who get into healing, we want to help. I mean, come on, that's that's part of the motivating factor. I've had to learn to not make people's emergency my problem and to really empower people to solve their own problems. Which is why I give homework when I do sessions. It's like, okay, here's the practice. I'm not going to answer 15-page emails in between. I got work to do, and I've got unpacking to do at this point. So, and it's funny, I'm laughing as you look out my back door. The only thing I completely throw this boundary crap out the door over is feeding the animals outside. It's all over, man. Every bird and the next door neighbor's cat take one look at me and go, it's going to take us about 30 seconds to wrap you around our toenail, and we got you. And they do. I will feed anything that comes to my door. So I am.
Yeah. It's funny. I've had people when I've been doing personal readings that start the reading by talking about how depressed they are and that they're suicidal. I'm like, you don't need a reading. You need to be calling 911, a suicide hotline number. Here's the number.
Exactly.
It's that's my role here as a reader, is not to rescue you.
Well, even as a shamanic practitioner, my role is not to rescue somebody. I mean, I've been suicidal a lot through my process.
Yeah.
And frankly,
but it's like, if that's where you're at in your space, then you need to be talking to somebody that's trained to talk to someone that's suicidal.
Exactly.
I am not that person.
No, yeah, I agree with that. I'm not either. I mean, I honor that people go through that. I've gone through that, and I know ways with frequency to help shift that, but they need to be in professional counseling services and call 911. I mean,
I'm like, get off the phone now and dial this number. I'm reimbursing you, but
exactly.
you have to take care of you. I'm not here to take care of you.
Well, and I see with the, because I'm like on the fringe element of the reading community. I adore you guys, and I love coming to sessions with all of you.
Yeah.
And by the time I come into a reader's session, I've already done my reading, done my cards, done my shamanic journey, chatted with the star. I mean, I've already done my gathering of info, and anybody, like all of you, like you and Johnny and Adrian, that I will go to for readings, I'm looking for the way you see what I've already looked at, because you'll come up with something different. And yet I never learned something I didn't know. There's a nuance to it. And that's, for me, is empowerment. It's like, I'm going to get my information first. I've had clients who had a reading like 15 years ago, and this is what somebody said about my soulmate that still hasn't come in. And I'm like, that reading was as good as the moment it was given to you. It doesn't exist anymore. It's like, oh my God. So, that's a boundary issue.
It's really hard because like, I don't have their addresses. What am I going to do other than give out a cell phone number or whatever that I have, which is the only thing I have. It's like, no, you need to call this number now. And I talk very straightforward with them. It's hard this time of year, and I think that's why I'm kind of getting into it this time of year. Suicides do usually go up around the holidays, so I'm like, you need to be talking to somebody who's trained to help you.
Yeah, they need to be talking to suicide hotlines. And I believe I saw
or their therapist.
A therapist or the hotline. There's a new number. I think I don't know. I think it's 988, but there's a number that has been put into service for people who are emotionally freaked out rather than physically freaked out. 911 is for that kind of emergency, but there's something that got put into play federally that will help, not necessarily suicidal, but freaking out about stuff. And, we need more access to that in the world. The whole lockdown COVID thing, I mean, I'm still realizing how much it affected me, even though I never got it. And my business somewhat stayed intact, like down a lot, but I mean, I came through it a lot better than most people. And it's just, there's nuances of, wow, I missed that, and that will never go back to normal.
Yeah, a lot of people had trouble in lockdown coping with that because they're used to getting out in the world, and that's claws in my Boobs, come on.
There's a boundary issue.
Boundaries, kitten, boundaries. Claws.
Owie.
About to see Jen scream on camera.
Oh my God.
Yeah. 911 emergency. Yeah. It's funny. But yeah, it's really, like you have to learn when you need to take yourself and separate from a situation and remove yourself. Yeah, I always say God gave me a brain, so I'm going to use it. And if that means taking myself out of the line of fire of someone who's abusive or overstepping my boundaries, I will remove myself. I don't send anger, regret, fear, resentment, nothing. I don't send any energy. I don't send love either. I go very neutral with it and wish them well on their journey. It's like,
Right.
I don't have to be a part of that.
Right.
I wish you well. Good luck with that. I don't have to be a part of it.
Well, and for me, with the people that I'm working with, I come from a perspective of nothing's broken and it is not my job to fix. I come from a perspective that in a world where I'm setting intention every freaking day for 36 years of the highest good, there is a creator, somebody bigger than me that knows what a person needs. I'm the catalyst. I'm the catalyst that's going, here's some energy I can move, or what I can say, or my wisdom or my frequencies or whatever. And this is to support you to remember who you are and how powerful you are. Because I've seen people who have been labeled, like really labeled, be in shamanic journey totally empowered. It's still there, and it's like, okay, that's the part I'm going for with people. I'm not fixing broken because I don't believe in broken. We all go back to God.
But it's also learning to recognize, we all have our good days and bad days, and as friends or family or whatever, we're there for people in the good times and the bad times. So it's not that person that calls you and they're having a bad day and are just looking for somebody to help lift their energy a little bit. That's not what we're talking about. It's the people that constantly come and are those energy vampires. Like they just try to suck all your energy, all the air, all the oxygen out of the room. Jody, I think it's about time for us
It's
to
time for ceremony.
think.
Okay.
I'm going to try to light a candle with the. I'm probably going to have to move the candle
Move the candle
over to the sidelines because Roro's getting interested. Yeah, okay. Doesn't matter where I hold it. She's going to be here. Archangel Michael, Archangel Raphael, Archangel Gabriel, Archangel Ariel, and to the Hathors, we surrender to your mercy, compassion, and healing. Thank you for aiding my awareness and discernment. Thank you for my appreciation of my worthiness to be treated well, to be treated from a place of love and light. Thank you for my personal sacred space that all will honor as I do. Thank you for keeping me calm when things may escalate and keeping me centered. Thank you for my many friends that love and support me and honor my sacred space. Thank you for healing my wounds and releasing my trauma that no longer serves me. Releasing the karma from trauma that no longer serves me. Just gradually coming back into my body.
You all sounded good. I played the storm gong and grandfather's son, and we're up for 10 days of rain down here. I can hear it in the gongs. They're both like, ah.
I had to get up at the beginning and move the candle to the window because Roro knows no boundaries.
Oh, she likes fire.
I was like holding the candle up. She's standing on her hind legs, going for it. I'm like, oh, like this, trying to get away from her. I'm like, all right, just put it in the window. They love the sound of the chimes at the end. All three of my kittens are over here on the sofa, just staring at the computer now, like that's what got them, the chimes.
Yeah, I will. I have a. I'm going to flip the camera and show you guys what. Obviously, I'm in the middle of unpacking everything, and it's like, oh my god, but stop doing that.
I love the gongs, but the chimes get the kittens. It's really funny. Is that kitten energy? Is that what that is?
Yeah. I'm not sure what it is. I have a chime rack now. I forgot to bring the Koshis out here, but that's the thing I held up, which is a water chime, and then all these different little doodads that I have. And my favorite are these little chimes that you would put in your window or outside. It's really fun. I'm enjoying unpacking.
Jody, talk for a second about your new sound healing thing that you're doing that Adrian was talking about it in a video the other day.
Mm-hmm. I am training in 2 different voice analysis modalities. The technology was invented at MIT in the mathematics department. And research that they've done has shown that our voice is like our fingerprint. It's unique to each of us. So the one that I'm using now, there's another one I'm training in. You will say vowels, you will say your name, you will say an intention. And given my work, the intention is really important. And then I take a picture. I do all this online. Take a picture and type the intention in. And I think we've talked about intention before on here. This isn't, I don't want this, I don't want that, I want, this is, I am, I have, it is now in the moment. So we type that kind of stuff in. And it goes through a mathematical algorithm database, to analyze what's going on. And then it looks at our energy from body, mind, spirit, emotions, shamanic work, look at all the spiritual, are we safe? Are we being attacked? All that stuff. And I get to run aura photos off of all the information and after we shifted. Wow. And I mean, it's freaking amazing because when I was told about it, and the next recording I put up that's going to be frequencies and gongs is going to be one, the intention is coming from the person who turned me on to this technology. She's used it for 10 years in her veterinarian practice, and she works mostly with the big animals like elephants. And I mean, it was one of these things where my Hathors are going, oh, we can do magic with this. So for me, in my already existing healing practice, I combine the live instruments with the frequencies, and it's a way of doing an energy reading on somebody and then creating a frequency packet that goes right for what's going on. And when I first was introduced to it, I was going through, in September, some suicidal stuff. And this thing kicked me out of that in 3 or 4 days. I mean, it was just like, okay, that's gone. And then it does things like, okay, you're eating too much sugar. What's wrong with your pancreas? What the hell are you doing? So I'm sitting there eating a scone and drinking coffee and running the frequencies. So it's a biofeedback device that just goes, here's a snapshot of where we are. And me being who I am, I want to use it for clients and for the highest, bigger picture good. And the unpacking in this house, because I've been really busy since I moved in. Thank you. That's I
Mhm.
need that. I'm nowhere near done unpacking, so I haven't been doing the lives. But and this is what I asked you to do. What I'm looking for are people who want to work with me on the voice analysis, because I use, you as the person with a global intention. And we record that, and then I have the frequencies, and then I play the frequencies on the iPhone, and I will record over it and broadcast that, because this is a way to get the bigger picture stuff out into the field in a way that sounds good and feels good.
When you asked me about it, I was like, "Oh, I so want to do this," but I was like, "Whoa, I really have to think about this. What the global intention is that I would love to do."
Yeah, and I mean, everybody comes up with something. I've got okay, I've got three in the queue, so to speak. I've got two I've already created, one more that's coming. And and that's the biggest part of us getting on Zoom and interacting, is let's fine tune the wording so it's empowered and it's in the present moment. And like, one of the ones I'm doing right now is about going into silence. And I'm cracking up because I'm like, we're going to use music, gongs, frequency to go into the silence. I
So,
like that paradox.
so are you offering this on your website now, like to do readings using this
Oh, you mean
technology?
like I have to update my somebody, one of my clients emailed me and she's like, "Where the hell is it on your website?" And I'm like, "It's on the piece of paper I sent people." I was no Wi-Fi for 3 months, so updating anything on the website, no, I haven't done that yet. That's next.
It's coming on the website though.
Well,
You'll be
if
offering.
anybody's interested, I have a document I will send with the whole breakdown, because it's like I've been so busy trying to get unpacked. I was like, okay, I'm going to unpack and have a an open house the end of November, and I'm looking at my garage and the house, going, maybe in January I'll be ready for this. I have 1,000 crystals to get out. So yeah, I have the information. If anybody's interested, just email me and I'll send the information, because I combine it with what I do, or they are standalone ways just to do the voice analysis. And for me personally, having something that I can play twice a day for 15 minutes, and it kicks me in my butt as hard as it does, I like that. And I've also noticed that it's the kind of targeted frequency work that, for people who do not want to change, don't do it. I mean, seriously, it's a way of doing shadow work with frequency, and it's very effective.
Thank you, Lucky Girl and Sharon Sipe, for posting links as we've been talking for this hour. Anyone watching this later, the links are posted in the chat. Just open the chat up. But
Well,
I
thank you.
find it very interesting. So I can't wait to see what all you do with it. And I was listening to Adrian talking about it. Thank you all for joining us
Thank you.
um, this Monday morning. This will be our last Sacred Sounds before Christmas and Hanukkah and everything. So we hope you have a wonderful, blessed holidays, and don't let anybody rile you up. Set your sacred space. This is my space.
Yeah, thank you so much. It is so good to be in the land of Wi-Fi again and be able to do things. I am really enjoying
It's
that.
nice to see your gongs all set up at home.
Well, the next time we do this, I will have the waterfall cascade of twinkle lights behind two walls, because something, I'm like, I miss them. So yeah, they're all set. Everything's set up. All the instruments are set up. That was set up the first week.
It's
So
lovely. Thank you all
thank you
for
all.
joining us.